right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming and being with me here today. I want to talk to you about my market roadmap line. It's my favorite indicator. It's based on Elliott wave theory. What it does, it kind of plots long-term setups and, well, it plots any time frame, really. Yeah, I'll show you how it works as we go along here today. So I want to thank you for being here. And let's jump into it. So thanks for coming. Thanks for being here. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me. Today, I want to walk you through and talk to you about my favorite indicator for long-term and even short-term trade setups. This is an indicator that I built and coded from scratch myself. And I'm going to walk you through why I built it, when I use it, and we'll walk through some of the markets out there that are active today and look at some popular stocks and look for actual setups that are ready to potentially take right now with profit targets and stops, and maybe even some statistics on how likely they are to work out, if that sounds good to you. So maybe if we have time, we'll even pick up a few stocks that you might suggest at the end. Then at the very end, I'll give you a quick, mercifully brief opportunity to jump in and claim the indicator for yourself. Sound like a plan? Great. Well, let's tell you about who I am. All right. In case you don't know, I'm not a Wall Street veteran. I'm not a bank guy. I'm not a hedge fund manager. I don't have any insider connections. I've never been to New York City or Wall Street. I've been to Chicago once and got deep dish pizza, then turned around and left. Haven't been to the COB, none of that stuff. I have no black box systems. I don't I don't know any hedge fund managers. I've never been any of this stuff. But what I am though is a lifelong tinkerer. I'm a hard worker. I started paper trading in the third grade. That's been a few years, if you can't tell. Uh, I opened my first trading account when I was 18 years old, and I'm a civil engineer, went to school for that. I'm an urban farmer, a builder, maker, Eagle Scout, troop leader, crypto miner, beekeeper, amateur pilot, a few other things I couldn't really fit on the slide, but I do a lot of things, right? I love figuring stuff out. I love mastering skills. I love accomplishing accomplishments. I've been obsessed with figuring out the markets my entire life. It just seems like that nut I can't consistently beat every single time, right? If I'm being honest, the stock market's probably been the hardest of my hobbies to master and master consistently. Like I said, I had no Wall Street connections. I had no epic, famous trading mentors, just a few decades of trial and error, few people willing to give me a few tips along the way, and persistence to keep on going and maybe fail more times than, and more ideas that I've tried than find things that worked, right? Now, to answer the question, why should you even listen to me? Maybe it's just that. After a few decades of mostly struggling, I think I figured out some stuff, some really valuable stuff that I can share with you right here today. Over the last few years, I've been blessed, absolutely blessed in the markets to make some incredible breakthroughs and be able to help other people make tons of money. Stuff that took me from mostly struggling to actually generating over $1 million in my own family's trading accounts in just 1 year. I've generated trades with 300 net return on one particular strategy, just trading the same thing over and over with all the winners and losers accounted for. I developed an algorithmic opening bell alert that has an 80% win rate. A group of my traders has just absolutely killed it. Some top traders from that system, 40% in 9 minutes, 65% in 7 minutes, 100% in 34 minutes. Ridiculous. 475% in 35 minutes. I mean, crazy stuff that I figured out how to do. And I even ventured into crypto, predicting the virtual top in 2021, the bottom in 2022, and I've helped many of my readers and friends make a killing all the way up from that bottom in 22 to the top we're at right now. Now, I don't just list all that stuff to brag or make you think I'm kind of special or anything like that, but I want to show you I'm kind of the opposite, right? I'm just a regular dude from Tennessee. I still live here. I've failed enough times to learn some pretty amazing tricks in the market. And the most important thing, I have foundational lessons. All right. One of those that I learned was the key that I want to share with you right here today, and that's the market roadmap. All right. The foundation of all my strategies is Fibonacci tools. Now, Fibonacci's, they're what makes sense to me. I'm not saying they can work for everybody or will work for everybody. They make sense for you, but they work for me and it's repeatable and I can teach other people how to use it. You can plug Fibs right into any TradingView account or pretty much any other charting platform. Now, here's some of the key ratios that I like. I kind of color them this way. They're color coded. When you see them on my charts, I have a 100% extension. I color that red. I do a 1272, a 1618. This is a mercifully brief introduction here. These are kind of my key support resistance zone, the 0.5, 0.618, and 0.786. The 0.618 is kind of pink because that's an important level for balancing, either finding support on a move down or finding resistance on a move up. So that's key support and key resistance right there. And then I have target levels that I use right there. Now, there's two main tools that I use in TradingView. TradingView is a free platform. Everybody can use it. You don't have to pay a dime to load it up and use this platform. So that's why I reference TradingView, because I like free tools that everybody can use, because I didn't really come from a lot of resources myself. So I use the 2-point fib tool, which they call the fib retracement tool, and the 3-point fib tool, which they call the trend-based fib extension tool. It's a mouthful. I like 2-point and 3-point. That's pretty easy to say. Now, here's some fib settings. I know they're probably hard to see. You can take a screenshot. We'll get it. I'll show a little bit more when I actually go to some live charts here. And then the trend-based fib extension tool, I usually just have a couple fib lines turned on. And there you go. There's kind of the settings, mercifully short and brief. Now, some terms I'll refer to. When I'm talking about the 2-point tool, I'll talk about a high point, a low point. That's usually the start and end point. And then we have that resistance level I talked about where the 618 is. We have a target level. If we break through that for continuation, I'll teach you more about this pattern in a minute. Now, some other terms when we're using the 3-point tool, we have a high point, a low point, usually a 0.1, 0.2, and a 0.3. And then we can find support levels, or we could do it a little different and start with a low point, a high point, and a low point, and come up with some extension levels for targets on the upside. We'll talk more about that too and show some real live examples. Fibs help me identify entries, exits, stops, targets, supports, resistances, all sorts of levels in the market, and it does it reliably. They're like my Swiss Army knife of trading indicators, but we can make them even stronger with the power of a little bit of EMAs. Now, Fibonacci-based EMAs and colors that I've used along the way, you can see a 5, an 8, a 13, a 34, but the one I love the most, colored in gold right here, 144, right there. Now here's my market roadmap indicator right here that I coded myself. If you want to take a screenshot of this, you can grab it. It'll be on the replay. You can go and watch it and grab it there. Basically, we're actually going to use the 144 and 169 EMAs, and we're going to make a cloud out of it right here. That's the very simplest explanation of what we're doing. All right. Now, what's an EMA? Well, that's an exponential moving average. An exponential moving average is a type of moving average that places more weight, and greater significance on the most recent data points. And this is the Investopedia definition in full. The key there places greater weight and significance on the most recent data points. All right, that's why I like that. That's why I use an EMA, because price and volume are the ultimate truths in the market. It's not news, it's not sentiment, it's not fundamentals, it's not what you're feeling like, it's not what you ate for breakfast. It's price. Like, price is the ultimate truth in the market. All right, what somebody's willing to buy for, what somebody's willing to sell for, that price that we agree on when we make a transaction, that's the only thing that's really the truth. All right. Combining fibs and EMAs, I built what I call the market roadmap line, because it kind of charts a course through the markets for me, provides a support and resistance line that's reliable, and I can build a trading system off of. Now, the setup looks something like this right here. We start out with price breaking through the roadmap line. We start out with price, and then number 2, it comes back and bounces off the roadmap line. Number 3, we get a price moving up away from it. And I actually like to take my entry above that 618 when we clear that resistance. And then we get continuation, and we can target some upward fib lines. And we'll talk about what those are here in a minute for profit targets. Now, this is the key. We got to have that bounce off of support. Now, it doesn't have to just stop at support. Sometimes we poke a little through. We'll go through some prime examples here that are set up with the entry in place today. Now, when do you get out? Well, when you're happy with profit, right? I mean, that's number one. If you're happy with the profit, who cares about what you might have missed or what, shoulda, coulda, woulda? Don't care about any of that stuff. If you made profit and you're happy with it, move on. All right. Now, another great place to get out is when you reach a target. You don't worry about what might come next. You just get out of the target and you book it and move on. I mean, that's kind of, I'm happy with the profit, usually at the profit target. Now, if you feel like you're running low on time, maybe you bought some options and things are getting a little bit tight and you don't want to watch it turn against you at the last minute, that's another great time to book profit. And then if price crosses below the orange zone, if you're long and it dips back below the roadmap line, maybe that's another sign to get out right there. Kind of got the basics. I mean, basically, want to see an actual current setups that are ready today for entries? Give me a yes in the chat right now, and we'll go pull up some actual charts. Yes, yes, yes. I already see it. All right. Let's go take the ones that are set up today that I already had picked out through my automated system. Now, which high is the most important high? I actually have an automated tool that highlights the entries and exits when they're ready. So right here. Now, it bounced several times over here. My tool filters out the entries when price dips below that 144 EMA. So actually, we're looking for this high and this low. Yeah, it went a little deep below the roadmap line. It's okay. We came up, we made a daily close above the roadmap line. That kicks off the entry right here. This one right here, there's your target, 7708 on this ticker, ADC, which is Agree Realty Corporation. Now, as far as you're like, okay, cool. How often does this trade actually work out? Well, because I've coded it up into a automated strategy on TradingView, I can see that it has 31 trades in the history. 64% of the time it works out on this particular ticker, and it has a negative profit factor. Anything under 1 is a negative profit factor. Maybe pass on that one, right? Now, number 2, things get a lot better here. We've got much better statistics. This one, 36 trades. 86% of the time it's profitable and a 2.2 profit factor. This one might be the best one I brought today. We can zoom it up, get a little closer. We can see that price did almost just like the example I had. We came up, we came down, touched the roadmap line, moved up, kicked off the entry right here. The upside potential, 124.17. You may be like, well, 1.1448 wasn't really a target you talked about. I've added this extra target recently. Now, getting in the weeds on fibs, sometimes we would underperform, sometimes we would outperform, and it makes like this zone around this target. And I did a bunch of math and statistics and figured out that I could up the win rate by going 90% of the way to that 1272 target. That 1272 target, 70% likely to get hit. When we jump down here to 90% of the way there, we up the win rate to about 75%. That's pretty spicy. I like it. So that's why I started using it right there. So that's 90%. You take 1272 times 0.9 and you get 1.1448. It's kind of a fib line I made up myself. And I use it and I like it and it works. So that right there, across 15,000 trades, 74% likely to get hit. On this particular ticker, with a statistical population of 36 trades, 86% of the time it is going to get hit. That's a pretty high probability trade. And it's got a profit factor bigger than 2. That means for every dollar you lose, you make $1.26 on average for this trade over the history of this, going all the way back to December 15th, 1972. That sounds like a pretty good place to put a bet right there. Now, how could you play? That's up to you. All right. Going long, get in here, getting out right up here. That would be the target. Next up, we'll have AME. And again, we can see classic bounce off the roadmap line, move up, get the entry. This one has 59 trades in the history, 84, and a profit factor slightly smaller at 1.5. That means for every dollar you lose, you make 60 cents, basically. Make your money back you lost plus 60 cents. There's your target, 185.73. Beautiful. Move right down, bounce, closed above the 618, and there's your extension. Now, I promised I would show off some of the fib lines and the settings, right? So if we actually click on this right here, and I click on the settings wheel right here, you can see here's the settings that I actually use and click on. Trend line. I use extend lines to the right. Some people like it, some people don't. I have those 236, 382, but I turn them off because they tend to be noise. I have that 0.5 blue, 0.618 pink, fuchsia, 0.76, blue again. I have the 1.0 in red. I have the 1272 down here in green, 1618 here in green. I have the 2.0 in red, 1.0, 2.0, and then 2618, 4236, 3618, and 686, and a 272 thrown in there with a little different green. That one, sometimes it gets hit, sometimes it doesn't. So there you go. And then down at the bottom, I put my 1448, 1.1448 right there. That's 90% of the way to the 1272. So there's the settings that I use on the 2-point tool right there. All right. Now, jumping in right here, another entry potential. There's the bounce. Put that up to the top of the fib right there. 76.42. Nice. That one's already moved up a little bit, so not a huge long way to go. 28 total trades on this ticker, 53.5. So that's the beauty. I have a tool set up to scan 4,000 tickers every day to find the ones that are actually set up with a trigger for an entry. So it's not about trading these over and over on the same time frame, but that's something you can do with this market roadmap. For example, let me show you. Let me stop briefly here and show you on SPX. This one, well, let's go to SPY, and we jump down to a 1 minute time frame. Check this out right here. We'll grab the entire history. It'll take just a minute to update the report at the bottom. Over the last 25 years, this thing has kicked off quite a few trades. Gonna take it a second. There it goes. 4,942 trades, 83% profitable. Profit factor, about 9 cents per trade. Winners and losers combined. So there's your same bounce setup, even on a 1 minute time frame, right there. So it doesn't matter the time frame, it doesn't matter the ticker, right there. Have a high, we have a low. There's the entry, there's the target, right there. Then we go again. This one looks like it's about to set up another entry. Here's the high, here's the low, just under that 618. That one might kick it off here before the close. Of course, if it does reject, no big deal. We didn't get in, we didn't risk anything. Kind of interesting, I think. Now, back to the list and the trades I set up with daily setups. Here's another one right here, BV. 34 trades, 64% profitable, 1.2. You can choose to take them or you can choose not to take them. I brought lots of examples, 16 examples, COUR. Here's another one. There's the high, here's the low. Set up the entry, 971 target, 34 trades, 64% profitable, 1 point. I mean, they're not all great. Sometimes the market gives you great stuff, sometimes it doesn't. Now, this one has a bigger picture. Bounce back here on CPay with an entry here. And it did a very small little bounce just recently inside there. That high, this low. There's the entry, 361.03. And then you have the bigger potential target. We've just been sitting for a couple weeks, but the bigger target, 425, right up there. DBEF. This one kicked off an entry back here, came up just shy of the target, retraced the roadmap line, set up a secondary bounce, 45.98, and then the target back here from this bounce, go from the high down to the low, and 46. GMAB, that one bounced up, kicked off the entry yesterday, and hit the target, all the entry at target all in one day. That trade over. HCSG, this one retracing a little bit. Maybe it doesn't work. Popped up, triggered the entry, retracing today. You could get in cheaper than the entry. 34 trades in the history, 64% of the time, 1.2 profit factor right there. MSC, here's the high, here's the low. There's the entry, 1908, potential target, MOD. Here's the high, here's the low, potential entry, 108.47, target right there, 34 trades. There we go, 23 trades, 56.5. PNRG. Here's the high, here's the low, there's the trigger, 211, target. PPC. Here's the high, here's the low. We filter out when we go below the roadmap line, so that's why we don't use this big high up here, but you could if you wanted to run it all the way down. When this sub move hits its target, that would be the entry for the bigger move all the way up here to 59. Unify. This one has two different patterns going, this bigger pattern and the smaller pattern. There's the entry, 34 target, or the bigger pattern, 36 target. I'd go for the 34 target. I like to be conservative. All right, and that's all 16 that I brought right there that are set up with entries that fired off today, right here. Now, I want to thank everybody for joining me. I want to teach you another pattern if you want to hang out for a minute. It's another reversal pattern, and it's a little bit different. And I'm going to teach this live on TradingView because I don't really have charts set up to show it to you. So we're going to pop back over to TradingView. I'm going to show you yet another chart pattern. And I'm just going to scan down, pan down here off of the chart, and we're going to draw a few things. I'm going to teach you this reversal pattern. Then we're going to try to find it a couple places. So if we have a trend coming down, we get a bounce in the market, and then we retrace like this. We use that 2-point tool to run from a low to a high. Then we get this pullback to a 618 right there. And then we get continuation. But how far, where should we target? All right, I call this a measured bounce pattern. Now, I'll show you the power of this thing here in a minute. If it's going to be bearish and we're going to get continuation lower from this trend, we'll stop right here and we'll get a move down. But if we get a further extension to the 1618, usually we'll get a pullback that holds right in here and then a continuation higher. And it's actually a reversal in trend. So this is an interesting thing. Now, if we actually combine the roadmap line with this is really rare to find this, but if the roadmap line actually lines up all right here, it can be a very powerful move, and we get even further extensions, much higher levels, possibly 272, or even something even crazier that I have a bit way up in there that overlaps the other price. So very powerful pattern. I call this the measured bounce pattern, and when we combine in the roadmap pattern, I call it a rocket ship pattern, because it has that kind of powerful potential to really take off in the market. Now, I know of a few opportunities because I've gotten into a few of them, and we'll hunt for those here in just a minute. But let me show you the opposite. Sometimes trend is going up. This uptrend going, and we stall out. We get a retrace, and then we get a move up to a 618. And this, very commonly, I see a lot in the market. Something like this. And then we'll usually get a continuation lower like this. Something like that. Now, when trend is up and we get this kind of correction, I like to call it an absolutely beautiful correction. Ties back into Elliott wave. And a lot of times we'll see the roadmap line coming in either right in here or right down here like this. And that also sets up that potential bounce that we can take advantage of when we crush above there, when we get that continuation higher. So a lot of times when we see price bounce down like this in a three-wave fashion with those correct proportions, that can be very powerful, especially in the move right at the roadmap line, and then get continuation higher. One of those, or I'll show a couple of those that are set up like that I really like right now. One of those that just completed its pattern Show you how powerful this was. This one right here didn't have a very clean three-wave, but then we took off and hit that target right up there. Another one I really like right now is pushing the limit again. We went a little deeper than that 618, but came down even further. And this actually lines up with the weekly chart. Did this move down? We did a retrace. We did a move down. We did a retrace. And today, even though earnings are pretty bad, we're still at a higher low. And I like it for another bounce higher right there. And we're firmly hitting the weekly roadmap line. It's going to lead to a big potential upside. If we can get the reversal off the low, coming on up, prior high, bust through 73, possibly 77 on the upside, right up in there. Nice potential on that one. Smaller time frame. This one did an initial move down, came up right almost into that 618 zone. Remember I said the blue kind of my zone. We actually bounced off the bottom of the zone, came on down, didn't quite hit the full extension yet, but we did hit the roadmap line. It stopped there. Looking for this one to turn around and bounce. Non-entry yet on the roadmap system, but if we can pop up through this 43.60 area, we're looking for upside on Chewy, somewhere around 50 right there. Now another one I like, big long term. Getting a lot of alerts today. A lot of alerts, a lot of action today. Big picture, really big picture. Smith & Wesson did this big, beautiful bounce right here. Yeah, I had that right. Went just a little bit below that 618. Came up, double hitting on that level. If we can actually break out above this 18, much bigger potential upside. Could be looking at something much higher up here, possibly in the 200 or 300. You think it's crazy if you want to? That's fine. Another one, similar setup. GES. Nice big move up. Nice retrace, 618. Holding firm. Pushing higher off of that 618. Got a little bit of resistance coming up here at the 15 to 20 area. Get above that. Potentially get an extension up here. Abercrombie & Fitch style. 110. Be a beautiful setup right there. Long term, I mean, it may take a few years to play out, but nice, big, beautiful upside potential right there. What is the 1D? That's 1 day. 1W, 1 week. 1 minute just says 1. And it just says 1 when it's 1 minute. D says 1 day. W says 1 week right there. So that's another pattern that I like. Combine them together can be very powerful. Like I said, it's very rare that we get the roadmap line and the 618 exactly at the same place, but it can be very, very powerful. So there's a few of my favorite setups throughout the market right there. Now, I promised a chance to add market roadmap to your own chart. So here it goes. You can get that full indicator code for the market roadmap, plug it directly into your chart, but it's not just the code. It's an easy button to add it to TradingView, and I even have a link for Thinkorswim if you'd rather use Thinkorswim. Plus, I'll give you a ton of education. I got like videos on how to use it, and I'll give you a weekly watch list. I'll welcome you to a private room so you can chat with me, ask any questions, seek help, come to my daily show on YouTube every day. And every week, I'll send you that curated watch list of stocks with setups bouncing off the roadmap line. They won't be ready for entry, but they'll be bouncing off the roadmap line. And I'll give you the key levels that I'm watching for an entry. Now, all of this usually runs $49. If that sounds like a good deal to you, here's what you do. But wait a second. I mean, inflation sucks. We all know that, right? So how about I cut you like 90% off, almost 90% off that deal? How about I cut it down to just $5? You can get started, jeffrytrader.com/MRMYT right there. Or you can call my team, I think it's 321-888-3962. Press that number 1. You can get started right there. $5 special. $5 special. MRNYT. I could probably copy that. I can type in the chat really quickly. Be right there. If you want to grab in the chat, $5. So sliced it down. Lowest price. I don't know what you can buy for 5. You can't even buy Starbucks for $5 anymore. So if you want to see it in action in the live markets on stocks you request, let's go look at some more charts. I'll open it up. You can throw out some requests. I'll pull them up. I'll go through them. We'll see if we can find something that you might want to watch right here. What do you say? NEM? Sure thing. Let's go to a clean version of the chart. So I don't have all my stuff, all my bias drawn on the chart. So right here we have a potential bounce, right? We've got the low back here. We've made a move up. We made a retrace. Just gonna draw this on here, see what we get. 618 right there. Beautiful. So we have the low in place, the high in place, the low in place, and a potential resistance up here around 74. If we push higher on NEM right there. And look at the bounce that we just did right there. That high, that low. We're coming up into that 1448. So we might experience another pullback before we can manage to ramp it on up higher. Right there. All right. Does it only, it works on Thinkorswim. Works on any platform, really, if you want to plug it in. It's just simple EMAs. I'll give you the code. You can ask an AI to take this code and write it for any platform these days. CRZ. This one's in a buyout situation. So Core Weave has a deal to buy out Core Z. So this one may be limited in its ability to perform. Their buyout deals somewhere around 20, 21, something like that. So that may be it for that one. Right there. And all right. Moving on. Let's look at some of the Mag 7s, shall we? Apple. So this does work upside down too. Right now, we trend down, came up, bouncing off the roadmap line here. You know, it might be the next move for Apple. That low, that high. If we break down below that 618 at 185, that'll be a key support level. If we get below that, you'd be looking at a move on down, possibly into this level. Now, something else to look at. We've made a move down, made that retrace to the roadmap line and the 618. Remember what I said about the rocket ship pattern? This could be the rocket ship pattern upside down. I could actually propel Apple further down. First move, second move. If we were to touch the 618, could set up the move further down, right down here at 145. So we might see something down in there, and it might get even worse down in here. That'd be a pretty nasty move on Apple, but it's been pretty weak ever since we topped out late last year in December, right before Christmas. Next up, Amazon. Got the move down. Bottom, moving up, kind of in an ambiguous zone here. It was actually a weekly bounce potential. Now that doesn't negate getting a secondary retrace here, but 256 is potential upside if we can maintain this move and break on out right there. 256.92 would be my target on Amazon. Looking at Google. Update the chart here. Did a weekly roadmap bounce off of here. Have that 218 target. If we can maintain that move right on up here, that would be the extension target right there. Now, if we were to turn down right here at the top of that resistance, might be similar to Apple, where we have a first move down, second move down, could put it back down here on Google right now. Meta, already coming up, scraping the top here, did not hit the weekly roadmap line back here. Did a bounce on the daily chart. It looks like it's consolidating underneath that breakout. Tried to break out, got rejected. Consolidating down there. Extension right up here. 789 would be the upside target. Let's jump down, time frame. A little bit more. Looks like we're doing a 1 hour bounce potential. So looking at the smaller picture correction here, smaller time frame. Now, the question you might be thinking, all right, like how long do these typically last, right? So typically these last 45 candles on these bounces, especially the ones that trigger my automated system. Take about 45 candles to do that. But the standard deviation on that is 35 candles. So if you want 99% of the time, you got to be out there about 150 candles. Now that's on this hourly chart, that's 150 hours. If you're on the minute chart, that's 150 minutes. If you're on the daily chart, it's 150 days, 150 daily candles, which can be upwards of 6 months or longer, right there to cover 99% of the time. So if you're trying to pick options and make sure you have enough time, that's kind of how, that's the rule of thumb. If you want to make sure that 99% of the time you don't run out of time. So right there on Meta for the hourly chart, If anybody has any more tickers, just throw them in the chat. Take a look at them. Microsoft already did the big bounce. Already come out with targets. We might be pushing on out to an extension target, 564. Typically when we see this though, like it didn't even slow down at this 1448. Came all the way up to 1272. We might retrace, retest the breakout before we push on higher. 564 would be the upside target, where I expect the most resistance. There's significant resistance here. That fib line, typically only 35% likely to be hit after doing this pattern. That's why I don't go for it. I go for the higher probability right down here. All right, I see CSGP in the chat. So this has been a lot of sideways chop, not really trending. This is a trend pullback continuation pattern. So we don't have a lot of trend. Lower likelihood to work out. This already hit extension targets. We might get bigger. Might be, look at the bigger pattern. This was a lot of overlapping chop. When I mean overlapping, it's highs, overlapping with lows, overlapping with prior highs, overlapping with prior lows. Doesn't give me a strong feeling for trend. If we can go ahead and clear this kind of price right there, we might be able to push this on higher. Now that 105, 106 area right there. Docu. So this one's interesting. It's got a kind of a might be bullish, might be bearish. I'm in this stock with a bullish bias, but we did move down first. We have come back up, stopped at the 618, did a gap down, and we've been hanging out at a 618 retrace here. So this is actually kind of compounded. If you run the fib line low, the high right there, you can see we stopped right on the 618 blue zone right here, turning back higher, getting above the roadmap line. But we have this gap down situation right here. Gap downs are resistance. We're going to have to fill that gap, get back up here to be able to push out 115 potential upside target. If we reject, potential downside, lower low, down here around 63, 66, 63, 64, right in there. So what's the high probability here? There's not one. We rejected pretty firmly on going higher right there. So if you're looking at it right now, if you're long, let's hold on. Still bullish, hadn't invalidated anything. Where do I set the stops? On these patterns, I always set the stop $1 below the low, right down here. Now, if we got down here, it's a good warning sign. You're up here thinking about getting in, and then all of a sudden we're down here below the roadmap line. That is cautionary. But now we're inching our way back above. I'd like to see it back test and then get continuation higher. Do a little baby market roadmap pattern right there. BKTX. Looked at this one quite a bit this morning. Now, the cautionary thing here, made a move up, made that retrace. Like I talked about, if we just stop at the red, where the first move up is balanced with the second move up, that can be corrective. The trend coming into it was down, make it continuation to a lower low. If we can push on up, possibly get 49, then retrace, hold that roadmap line, higher targets. That'd be what I look for right there. And that one, like I said, that was actually on the list this morning for my morning show. Back into some of the Mag 7 stocks. NVIDIA. This one pushing on out. There's the high, there's the low. Coming up just shy of the 178, 1272 target. I would expect that to go ahead and hit there, maybe retrace if Apple and some of the others show some weakness. Microsoft gets the retrace, and then this one extend just like Microsoft, probably hitting the 216 level up here would be a next upside target area. Tesla, on the other hand, this one a little more ambiguous. I drawn a potential earnings drop or pop based on the earnings or based on the options prices yesterday. Potential pop, put it up here to 354. Potential drop, put it down here, 307. And that's exactly where it's sitting right here into the close today, right at the bottom of the expected move range based off the option prices from yesterday. Now we've got this more complicated series of lower highs and higher lows going. So this makes it a little more ambiguous on what the next move can be. We had this bigger pattern right here. We stopped at the 618. Then we did a retrace off this low to that high. We stopped just shy of the 618. And we stopped breaking out, stopped retracing, stopped breaking out. Now we're stopped retracing. So this is, I call it a watermelon seed squeeze play, because when you squeeze a watermelon seed squeeze, or when you squeeze a watermelon seed between your fingers, you never know quite which way it's going to pop, right? It's slimy, and tends, the harder you squeeze, the more it's going to pop with force. That's kind of the way these are. You never know which way it's going to pop. It's going to go somewhere with force. It's either going to go up or down, or maybe just keep going sideways for a little bit and build up more and more energy before it either pops or drops. You can be bullish, you can be bearish, I don't care. It has patterns for both right now. Right now it's already held support, it's already held resistance, and we just keep bouncing in a tighter and tighter range right around that roadmap line, winding up, building up energy more and more, likely to pop one way or the other. Now, triangles are usually B waves, but is it the A coming into this and B going down? Or is this the A and this is the B that's just got 3 waves in it so far? It's hard to tell. Hard to tell. Was this the first move? And this is the A, B, and then we get the C, and then we get a pop. It's hard to tell. Hard to tell. You don't know which one exactly is the one that kicked it off. Very ambiguous. So moving on to Netflix. This one, beautiful extension right up to the past the 1618. Now it's coming back down. I would expect this one to drift back down here over the next couple of weeks, find support in here, and go on its next move. So it's been trending very well with those bounces. Very well with the bounces. Very well with the bounces for a long time. Ever since it made its low back here in 2022. It's done very well with the trend. Pull back, continuation, pull back, continuation, pull back, continuation, pull back, continuation. Now we're going to pull back. So I'd expect support somewhere down around 1080, possibly even down to 1040 on Netflix. If we can hold that support, turn back higher, expect another extension higher. That would look something like this high, this low. Let's just go down to 1060, split the difference there. Next upside, possibly 1382, 1424, possibly 1545. This one tends to flow all the way up to the 1618 before we get that next resistance. Something like that would be what I expect. On Netflix, that could easily take it into next year before we do the next pullback. Right there. So that's Mag 7s plus Netflix right there. Other ones I'm kind of bullish on, but this one's going to need a pullback before I get involved in it. Right there. T-Mobile, potentially breaking out of this downtrend, lower highs, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, and then did this beautiful little bounce reversal thing. If we can get and we're stopping today right at the red. I want to see this get continuation all the way up here before we pull back. Maybe pull that roadmap line up and then get that move on higher. So looking for resistance right near those prior highs, pull back, find support, and then take off again. Beautiful potential breakout right there on T-Mobile. Next up, A-Lab has been beaten down, or L Marble, ALB. This one's got to move up off the lows. Back to a 618. Did that again right here. Kind of a nested. One a little deeper, 786. Now we're getting a power move right up through. Exceeding the 1618. This is looking good for potential reversal. We probably want to see this come back, retest that roadmap line area, get some extension, another retest, finish that move up, and then get continuation. That'd be the trend pullback, trend pullback, trend pullback. Lots of continuation. So this one's on my watch list. I need to see it break above this prior lower high area to really get me thinking that we've got some staying power on ALB right there. CMG, talked about that one being going a little deep, but I'd like to see it hold above that prior low and get that continuation higher. Kava is another interesting one. We got that first move down right here, retrace, and we got an extension down to 1618. Could be indicating that this is now a downtrend. Could be working on a retrace that holds below this level up here, and a continuation that'll be a 5 down. So it could be a new trend downward for Kava. I want to be careful and watch out for Elliott wave wise. So I'm a potentially bullish list, but all the price action lately has been down below this roadmap line, which indicates a more bearish type of move. XLY, I was looking at this morning too. A large potential 5-way down, the large retrace into a resistance zone, pushing it a little deep into it. But if this is our first move down, retrace, second move down, could potentially take XLY down around that 163 area right there. Looking for some other ones that might have opportunity. I have a potentially bullish list over here. Wingstop. Very swift move off the lows here. Came back hunting for support. It's made dip just a little bit deeper. Right down in here. Then turn higher once again. Another favorite one I've traded several times this year, been Celsius. You see we did that breakthrough right here. We came up, hit it, retraced, broke through, retraced, went a little higher, retraced, a little bit higher, retracing. I kind of want to see this come back and hit again. That would give me a lot of confidence. If we hit and hold and then go higher again, then we're going to potentially come back up near these all-time highs. When we look at the big picture resistance, we do have some resistance here at 55 that we need to break through to get that move and that continuation up to potentially 121 right there. So the short term, I'm looking for a little bit deeper retrace here, then break through that 55 area, kind of confirm, maybe get a retrace, and then set up that bigger move. Be really beautiful on Celsius. And Delta, this one also has a really nice breakthrough on the roadmap line. Looking for a little bit of that retrace action. Back test it from the top, and then potentially go higher. When you zoom out and look at this one, big picture, it's moved up off the lows from back here in 2020, made a high, retraced, held a 50% retrace. That sets up this beautiful upside potential somewhere in this zone, around 200, 300 if we get bullish and go out for really higher highs. That could be long term, possibly out 5, 10 years from now. Tends to move slower than I draw on the chart. All right. Anybody have any last minute questions before we put the wraps on this baby? Crocs is another one. Got to wind up, wind up, wind up. Move up, retrace, higher low. Has a beautiful potential to extend higher here. Looking for like 192, possibly 200 up here. Probably struggled to get through the prior all-time high around 180. DG also has a very big picture retrace. It did. It's IPO low. It's high. We touched the 50%. We bounced pretty strongly. So it's a large upside potential on DG. If we get that kind of extension, just crazy numbers, absolute crazy numbers. I don't know if it's going to do this, but it's like 1,500, possibly even 3,000. It's like everybody's going to be shopping at Dollar General, I guess. And the funny thing is Dollar Tree has a similar pullback continuation potential. It's been around a little longer. Looks like everybody's going to be shopping at dollar stores. Right there. GE Veranova is just pushing extensions ever since we broke those two apart from GE and GE Veranova. Got this pullback continuation. We're coming up in this 1618. Probably have some resistance here. Might get a reaction before we extend it if we're going to keep on this trend. Breaking apart, GE and GE Veranova both been very, very busy, very bullish since they broke that company apart, apparently unlocking a lot of shareholder value. You see the same kind of pattern showing up on GE as GE Veranova right there. So where does it stop? I'm not trying to put a top on it. 778 possibly. Doesn't negate having a pullback. And there's no roadmap line because it hadn't had enough candles, really, even on the daily chart. We just barely have enough to have a roadmap line at all. Alrighty. David, I'm going to wrap up there, and unless anybody's got anything else.